going to talk a little bit about what makes the culture agile and the challenges that are involved here in following through agile strategies when regarding people matters and behaviors and culture. I'm here in Avenue Code as HR business partner since last year. So if there is anybody here that doesn't know me yet, nice to meet you. Hi, Isa. I chose to start our conversation here showing you this recent research from McKinsey. I think this will make my point of why we must talk about culture when discussing agility. Many organizations discuss tribes, squads, chapters, Scrum, DevOps pipelines, and so on. And those are very important topics, but this recent research shows us that the people dimension, and I mean cultures specifically, is the most difficult part to get right. The challenges of culture change are more than twice as common as the average of the other 4 at the top 5 challenges here in adopting agility. And those include lack of leadership and talent, establishing a clear vision and implementation plan, insufficient resources, overcoming technological bottlenecks, and so on. So let's talk about culture, right? But what does culture mean after all? Culture, I like to say that culture is about the personality of the organization. It's the set of basic assumptions that some group invented, discovered, or developed to learn how to deal with the daily experiences. And those worked well enough to be considered the valid, how do I say it, the correct way to perceive things, to think, to feel about the challenges in the organization. It's like the company's DNA, which was implemented by the founders' attitudes at the very beginning, and not only shapes the way that decisions are made, but also what types of humor are allowed or what clothes do you wear. Culture it's like the manifestation of what is truly valued by the employees, the person of the group, inside the group. It also has a selection function. As humans are social beings, they read the signs of what best fits the group and adapt their behavior accordingly. If they can't do that, they either leave or are kicked out. And on the other hand, when people adapt to this new group, these people reinforce as well the social norms and the behaviors, and thus reinforce the culture. I brought here 2 experiments that I won't pass it here, but if you're not familiar with this yet, I strongly recommend. These are the experiment, the first one of Solomon Ash about the decision-making facing when inside a group, and the other one is from Brain Games about integration pressure in a waiting room. Those experiments clarifies these pressures of getting into the social norms. But what's the relationship between the culture and the business? In fact, nothing happens other than through people in the business context. Everything that happens in the company is due to people behavior. And the way you and your colleagues and I behave will determine the success of projects, strategies, resources, allocations, and so on. So when we are interacting with others, using our time and making decisions, this is mostly everything that each of us contributes to the organizations on a day-to-day basis. What we do, I mean our behaviors, produces what we have, our results. And each behavior produces specific results. So different behaviors will produce different results. And if you want different results, you have to adopt different behaviors. That's why Peter Drucker said that culture is a strategy for breakfast. It means that the personality, the sense of the company prevails over planning or tactics. And here, I mean the whole company, but also subcultures, smaller groups, departments that has its own singularities. That's why many companies also describe their culture as one of the main limiting factors in implementing agile strategy. But others, on the other hand, describes culture as an enabling factor or a competitive advantage. So the goal here is to create an environment that extracts behaviors that are best suited to our organization goals. So ask yourself, what are the challenges of the business scenario that you're facing? What kind of culture will need to be faced? Will you need to face these challenges? And what is the current culture and its impact that has on the results that you expect? I like to take this analogy here, for example. Which one of you can identify which part of Brazilian highways are these? Please tell me in the chat. In the meantime, I'll tell you what's the difference between those two. The first one here, let me take the laser here. Do you see the laser?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thanks. In this first one here, the driver wants to get a return, and the driver comes from the main road, enters here in the roundabout, and sees this speed radar here that tells the speed limit is 40 kilometers per hour. And then he takes a 40 kilometers per hour and slowly takes the roundabout, stops here, look to the right, look to the left, and think, is any ungoverned, how do I say it? Is any truck in a high speed coming so fast that I won't have time to cross? Then the driver take another look and another one, and then decide to cross and accelerate as fast as the person can, and then cross it. Ufa, I made it. Then take the rest of the roundabout, stops here, and do the everything all over again to get to the main road again and turn back. This one here is the PR423. It's a regional highway in the south called Clover of Death, translating to English. In Portuguese is Trevo da Morte. The second one is BR381 in Minas Gerais, the Clover Fernão Dias. And the driver starts here in this red line with a speed of about 110 kilometers per hour, then takes this right side of the road and thinks, okay, there's no way I collide with anything and anyone, so I'm gonna speed up and get to the main point here like 140 kilometers per hour. And then make the other leave here and get back. Easy. So which one do you think has the biggest Get back. Has the biggest, the highest death index. You can say in the chat, or you
I
can open
think
your
it
notebook.
depends on the traffic, but considering how confusing it is, I would say the first one in the south.
Okay, thanks. It's similar, actually. Both are about 4.5 deaths in 10,000 fleets, for each 10,000 fleets. So both are very similar. Both has this KPI with very similar results. What's the difference then? One achieved its results founded on a culture of fear in a chaotic environment and without structure. That leads to a behavior of driving slowly, that generates anxiety, that increases the time to complete the task. The other one has a culture of trust, psychological safety. People feel confident and drive fast. Which one is more agile? There are 2 points here. One is that we can have different cultures to support different needs. We can adapt our culture to support our context. The other one is look how structure gave the safe environment needed for autonomy, confidence, performance, agility. So I want to dissociate here the fact that agility does not have rules or structures. Yes, it does. Actually, McKinsey conducted another extensive research on the subject and found that truly agile organizations learn how to be both dynamic, fast, adaptive, and stable, resilient, reliable, efficient at the same time. Because change without stability is chaos. Innovation without productivity is a waste. And having the appropriate balance between these dimensions is what an agile culture is. The dominance between stability or flexibility or an inner focus or an external focus will change over time, and is heavily influenced by environmental factors like the team profile, the resources available, the complexity of a project, or the customer profile, and so on. So let's get a little deeper into the components of a culture. What really defines a culture? Edgar Schein is a social psychologist and a former professor of the MIT. Created this framework considering culture in three levels. The first one is the most superficial layer of the culture is the artifacts. It's the most tangible, visible, and more unstable as well. The artifacts are those things that can be seen, heard, or felt. It's the published values, methods, guidance, another statement, all of those contents in AC Hub, for example. The agile rituals and ceremonies like those from Scrum, the agile team organization, and including here the leadership, emerging leadership or formal leadership, the language used day by day, verbal and written, and the management and governance practices like the knowledge management used, the feedback and communication systems, the structure that can enforce a hierarchical or a flat organization, and so on. I'm sorry. The second layer here needs more observation to get, but talking to people and observing daily routines, it's possible to get. It's the exposed values. It's the exposed strategies or goals or aspirations that the organization or a group have. These stories that people tell in Avenue Code about the current legends or myths or heroes from the past, and people talk about it all the time. The shared agile values, like when people say here we are so collaborative or so playful, people say it. It's not exposed, but it's in the people common shared values. The third and deeper layer of the culture is the unconscious one. It's the implicit assumptions of what are expected, valid, or not, and cannot be stated. It needs to be deeply observed, explored to understand. Only people who are really in to the culture can feel it, can understand it, this part. One question that you can ask to get deeper to this point is, what do people feel after talking to a person in a hierarchy level, for example? What do people do facing a problem? Or when people have an idea for a project improvement, what do people do? What do people really deeply believe and act, regardless of what they are saying they do? Do they really believe that there is always a better way of doing things? That assuming that you don't know is a sign of strength, not weakness? That mistakes are learning opportunities? That senior people are not the guardians of all wisdom? If your beliefs are not aligned with these statements here, maybe your beliefs are not supporting agile culture. And the challenge here is that this part of the culture is hardly accessible, and to change is difficult. Even to reflection is difficult to access. Some people are aware but don't understand its origins and do not take the chance or the step, do not feel confident to act as agents of change. So the reality is many people adapt or leave. So in the real world, um, observing the culture will show what is really valued. But sometimes the conclusion does not seem in line with published values. So if this happens, the leadership, our peers, our group, the company will be accused of not acting on what they preach. So sooner or later, the results won't support the desired business needs, and it will become clear to all. People, customers, marketing, potential talents in the market, and so on. But the problem is, under pressure or stress, when we have a business challenge, even though we know there is this adaptive way of thinking and doing things, our instinct of survival kick in and we fall back and we keep doing the disadaptive ways of thinking and acting. So everything needs to be connected. Align our values with behaviors and symbols will do more for the culture than, for example, changing policies. And do you remember where the agile rituals are in that framework? Just at the top of the iceberg. And if you notice, if you don't take the whole picture here, the initiatives of agile transformation or maintenance will rarely be successful. What to do then? First, you need to understand the current culture. and its impact. Then you have to describe the desired culture, the values that support it, and set goals. Design an execution plan considering behaviors, symbols, systems, rituals, management and monitoring mechanisms. Um, it takes a collective and genuine belief of why do we have to change for it truly get the change from all the people involved. So set a clear and purposeful vision of why do you want to change and where are you going to. Why do you need to have a more agile environment, for example? And make it in a way that people understand that benefits them. That is a bottom-up perspective, not a top-down. This put us in the best possible position to deliver the change, really, and create new rituals to influence and support these behaviors. That means that you need to redesign structures, processes, and technologies to adjust them to the demands of the desired culture. And then further, to be successful, the desired change needs to be deeper in the culture, to be permanent. The second step then is the process of changing the way people think, feel, and behavior. Needs to be a heart and mind transformation to be successful. So people behave the same way they think and feel. Our thoughts, beliefs, values, and feelings are agents of our behaviors. Some of them are unconscious and deep, and others are superficial and transitory. Those are easier to change. But to this cloud of thoughts that passes us, I will call the mental model or the mindset. What you're gonna have to do is reshape the being of people, what people really believe, if you want to change what they're doing to get the results you have. This mindset shift will be the main phase of your plan. So, mindsets are the employees' mental lenses that orient them toward a unique way of understanding an experience and guide them towards corresponding actions and responses. So, to enhance the agility of the company, it is needed that people have mindsets that allow them to view change positively and behave in ways that facilitate effective change. So, what mindsets are? To understanding those mindsets, we are more able to quickly access where we are and where we want to go. Which mindsets are most conducive to agility? The mental model contains these three elements: feelings, beliefs, and values, and a value level of perception and consciousness. So how I'm feeling determines my level of involvement. It's like an energy charge of my behavior. When the charge is positive, I will show behaviors that are more helpful and constructive. But if the charge is negative, or if there is little charge, my behaviors will be less helpful or even destructive. My beliefs will direct this energy in certain directions. Beliefs are our view of what is true, of how the world works. And some are more rational, some are more emotional. So logical discussions will make a shift in rational thoughts, but emotional experiences can change emotional beliefs. In addition, we have the personal values that shapes our priorities and define what is really important to the world and for us, and that influences our decision making and influences our behavior. So to make a change, I'm looking at the time. I think I'm gonna pass this part. Don't mind.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
we we don't have another presentation after this one, Raisa. If you need like extra 5 minutes, if the people can stay in the call, I think we can use those 5 minutes.
Oh, maybe five it's too much. I think two
Okay.
minutes. It's
All right.
okay. Okay, thanks. So where do you start to change mindsets? The first thing to change is for things to change, I first need to change. So you need to take the responsibility for others' reaction. There is logic in behavior of people in your organization, in your group, in your team. Certain patterns of behaviors are encouraged. People behave in ways that they believe it will bring success for them and will take them to be accepted in the group. And much of this is subconscious. So it takes a very open mind to listen to the messages that people are receiving from you, and not the messages that you think or that you want to be passing to them. So the first step is to identify your own current mindsets and those that you want to develop and become aware. It's like changing glasses. When you're too long with a sunglass and you think you don't even notice anymore, and then you realize, oh, I think I'm not seeing the way that people are seeing, and the only thing you need to do is take it off and put another one, the better one, for this time. So it's like changing. When you're aware of the mindset that you're in, you'll be empowered to understand it, understand where it's reflecting your actions, behaviors, and so on. And then you'll be able to consciously decide to stay in this position or not. So when you're not unconscious anymore, you stop being a victim. You make connections and take the attitudes needed to direct your mindset and then your behaviors towards the results needed. But it seems easy, but it's not, right? Um, it um, it kind of takes you to deeply analyze yourself and make contact with emotions and feelings that are not easy to recognize even to yourself. So the, sometimes you will need an outside help, but there are several development programs, therapies, coaches that are used to deal with these ordinary people that become aware of some deep beliefs that are preventing them for performing. And I take the chance to recommend the career advisor here in Avenue Code for this. Then, through these actions, if you change your mindset, you'll be the example needed for people around you change it too. So it's believed that when you change your mindset, you can change your attitudes, and with them, you change your behavior. Changing your behavior, you impact and influence the others around you and make a collective change. Then you can also help people around you to connect to their mindsets and be aware of them and decide where they want to go. This is the framework. So people to all here to just to keep in mind, there are some conclusions here that I think it's good to keep in mind. And that agile plans must come along with culture plans. It not happens separately. change happens in a deeper level, it must be from hearts and thoughts, must be a culture change, and it's not hard because it mixes with people's feelings, thoughts, and it generates anxiety, resistance. But remember that human beings are emotional beings, and everyone here in the company are human beings. So just telling them to change won't have much effect on the change behavior. It must be something deeper. And people need time to realize what the agile mindset means to them. So it connects, so them can connect it with their feelings, beliefs, and values. So there is no change with the practice of speech. You must be the example of the behaviors that you want to see in your group. Remember that continuous improvement are a core value of agility, and it must fit in the culture change as well. So keep monitoring your progress and so on. So you can feel the difference in people's behavior, in your self behavior, and in the impact that you need for the results to cover business needs. Your customer experiences is the end result of your culture. So if you want to measure really your impact, try gathering some feedback from your client, your customer experience. Your customer will have the opportunity even to compare how your organization and your team are dealing with certain tasks or challenges that others are not. And then finally, you start to see the evidence of a culture-based competitive advantage. It will become clear that the agility that you brought is making some results. Thank you. I really expect, I really hope that some of the thoughts here and the insights here can connect with you in some time in your daily routine, because every change, every decision that we make involves people, and people are directed by the culture that we are in. So remember that culture is dynamic. It impacts on people behavior, but is impacted as well as with people behavior. So be this agent of change making if you need to, if you see that your group has to.